They say knowledge is power. But Brenda Tills, she brought a 15-year-old master key to a digital age knife fight. That's not power, that's delusion with a handle. The HOA president shows up at my back door with a master key, like she's auditioning for Mission Impossible. Except the only thing she broke was her ego. She thought she had authority. What she had was a snapped key, a 911 call, and a one-way ticket to viral humiliation. You're not going to believe what happened when my son picked up the emergency line, because she sure didn't. Brenda strutted into my backyard like she was auditioning for CSI HOA. I'm Carl Benson, retired mechanic, part-time peacekeeper, full-time witness to idiocy. My security app pinged at 7:03 a.m. I figured it was a raccoon or a neighbor's cat with an attitude. Instead, I got Brenda, knees bent, squinting like a confused locksmith, jamming her master key into my back door like she was cracking a bank vault made of plywood. Her face looked like she'd swallowed a lemon and declared it property rights. This wasn't a key, it was a relic. That thing was older than her sense of boundaries. The key snapped, loud, like the crack of divine judgment meeting brass. Brenda gasped like she'd just been betrayed by the Constitution. And then came the banshee scream, something between a feral goose and an opera singer getting tased. She started pounding on my glass door with the urgency of a flamingo on bath salts, yelling, "This is emergency HOA business," which, in Brenda's world, translates to, "I made it up just now, but I'm very loud about it." I grabbed the nearest thing with a handle, a wrench. Not to threaten her, mind you, but because I think better with weight in my hand. It's like my brain's got a torque setting. She looked me dead in the eye and declared, "You will let me in, or I will call the authorities." I said, "Mom, you've got about as much authority as a wet nap." She dialed anyway, finger trembling with entitlement. Now here's the funny part. My son-in-law, he works dispatch. Yeah. Brenda called 911 and got the guy whose last name is literally on my mailbox. So here's what we learned today: if you bring a busted key and a fake badge to a real man's house, don't be surprised when the dorknub knows more about property law than you do. The illusion of power snaps faster than a brittle key in the wrong lock. What happens when Brenda finds out the emergency dispatcher is the same kid whose tricycle she fined for parking too joyfully? You're gonna want popcorn. Hit that follow and keep riding this train wreck of justice. Nothing ruins a tyrant's morning like dialing 911 and getting your enemy's son. That's not karma, that's family planning. Brenda thought she was about to flex her OA authority on law enforcement. Instead, she stumbled straight into the velvet-gloved trap of Ely Benson, a dispatcher raised by sarcasm, justice, and my Sunday rants about this woman's nonsense. Brenda's call came through right after Eli cracked open his second energy drink. She launched into her performance like she was auditioning for Law and Order, HOA Victims Unit. "There's a dangerous man refusing community regulations," she barked into the phone. Eli responded in his calm, protocol-laced tone, "Mom, can you clarify the nature of the threat?" He already knew the voice. "You can't mistake someone who once fined you for your Halloween decorations being too secular." The woman was as subtle as a leaf blower at a funeral. Ely handled her like a cat with a laser pointer. Gentle, patient and gleefully in control. He asked her to describe the supposed threat in detail, and Brenda delivered. "He's interfering with my duties as show president, he's got weapons, and he's blocking access to community property." That was news to me, unless Brenda thinks a wrench and a locked door count as a threat to national security. Eli asked, "Did you enter the property with permission?" And she, without hesitation, said, "I have the right to enter any home in this neighborhood with my master key." That's when my coffee nearly shot out of my nose. She kept digging. With every word, she admitted more unauthorized entry, false accusations and enough delusion to warrant a reality show. "He's hiding something illegal in there, I just know it," Brenda hissed. Eli responded, "Can you be more specific about the contraband?" And Brenda, bless her oblivious heart, said, "He has non-regulation tools and possibly unpermitted paint." "Paint," she called 911 over paint. "Somewhere." Picasso rolled over in his grave and wept. By minute 18, Eli had her whole monologue recorded, every ounce of fake authority, every inch of trespassing wrapped up in a pristine 911 transcript. He was polite, even sympathetic. "Mom, I understand your concerns. Please stay on the line while I contact the appropriate unit." Brenda thanked him like she just handed off a hostage negotiation. She had no idea she'd just built me the legal equivalent of a golden parachute, signed, notarized, and archived. She hung up with a smirk that could peel paint. Convinced she'd unleashed the wrath of government bureaucracy on me. But the truth, she'd dialed herself straight into a corner. I watched her stomp away from my house, muttering threats and adjusting her sunglasses like a villain in a straight-to-DVD sequel. The difference was, this time the hero had the audio files. When you lie to a stranger, you gamble. When you lie to a Benson, me, you lose the house. Brenda thinks she just summoned the cavalry. She actually invited the internet. Wait till she finds out who's been documenting her HOA madness for weeks. You know it's a bad day when you finish a 911 call and lose a fight to a trash can. Brenda Tills, freshly inflated from her self-appointed emergency, strutted off my porch like she'd just shut down a hostage situation. Except the only thing she'd captured was her own incompetence on a recorded line. Sunglasses on, nose up, she was halfway to her car when Karma rolled in from the curb, dressed as a 32-gallon garbage bin with a loose lid and perfect comedic timing. It was like watching a slow-motion scene from a sitcom nobody asked for. She clipped the bin with her knee, spun halfway, and face planted right into a plume of yesterday's regrets. Banana peels, coffee grounds, Miyazaki TV guide from 2003. All of it exploded around her like the world's worst parade float. She stood up looking like a raccoon had styled her hair and a compost heap had given her fashion advice. Her new perfume. Eau de breakfast, leftovers, and dignity loss. Brenda screamed, "This is assault by refuse!" and started smacking the garbage can like it was a paid protester. She tried to peel a banana skin off her calf while balancing on one shoe and cursing like a Shakespearean villain with a word of the day calendar. That's when Eli strolled up from the sidewalk, phone in hand, grin on face, and said, "Hey Brenda, just wanted to let you know. You literally reported yourself on that 911 call." Her jaw dropped like a lawn chair at a barbecue. "Excuse me," she hissed, still brushing grounds off her blouse like they were political lies. Eli showed her the dispatch log. "You confessed to trespassing, false accusations, and abusing emergency services, all on record. All with a timestamp." It was the first time I'd seen Brenda go pale and red at the same time, like a peppermint with anxiety. She muttered something about misinterpretation of context and stormed back toward her car with the elegance of a cat in a thunderstorm. As she stomped off, she shouted over her shoulder, "This community deserves better than you people," which would have landed harder if she hadn't tripped over her own flop, and done a mid-air pirouette that ended in a knee to her car door. Ely leaned toward me and whispered, "Is it too soon to sell tickets?" I nearly passed out laughing. If Poetic Justice had a Yelp page, this morning would have been a 5-star review. Those who slip on pride usually land in compost, and sometimes Poetic Justice smells like banana peels and burnt entitlement. But this HOA queen, she wasn't done crowning herself in foolishness. Because that red paint she ordered last night wasn't for a craft project, it was for war. Brenda's idea of justice, dumping red paint like she's Banksy for boomers. I walked outside that morning, still riding the high of her banana peel ballot, only to find my walkway dripping like a crime scene staged by a toddler with vengeance issues. Thick red paint pooled at the doorstep like it was auditioning for a horror movie, and next to it, a handwritten note, "This is what happens when you disrespect the HOA." The woman had officially transitioned from petty tyrant to low-budget supervillain. Now, I could have blamed random teenage pranksters or a rogue gallon of exterior regret, but then I heard the voice of neighborhood justice itself. Gloria Hayes, retired English teacher and queen of neighborhood receipts, called me over with a cup of chamomile and a vengeance glint in her bifocals. "Chris," she whispered, like she was inviting me to a secret bake sale. I saw everything. Gloria didn't just have tea, she had surveillance, timestamps, me in a folder labeled Operation HOA Meltdown. Turns out Gloria had installed a security cam after Brenda fined her $50 for aggressively cheerful mailbox decor. So when Brenda rolled up at 3:14 a.m., paint bucket in one hand and fake camera in the other, Gloria hit record like she was producing a Netflix docuseries. The footage. Brenda doing her best B-movie villain, sloshing paint, adjusting angles. Me then sitting in her car mirror practicing shocked expressions like, "Oh no!" Who could have done this? The woman was rehearsing for sympathy like it was an Oscar category. Gloria handed me a flash drive and said, "Let me know if you want the director's commentary." I nearly hugged her into retirement part 2. But that wasn't all. Gloria had compiled months of Brenda's sneak attacks, her midnight garden inspections, the way she measured fences with a ruler like she was mapping ancient ruins. And even her yelling at squirrels she believed were affiliated with the Johnsons. Gloria was quiet, but she'd built a case bigger than Brenda's ego, and that's saying something. We hatched a plan with the precision of a heist movie but powered by casseroles and community spirit. That night was the monthly HOA potluck at the community park. Brenda thought it was her stage. What she didn't know, Gloria brought the projector, I brought the evidence, and Ely brought popcorn. Because if this next scene was going down, it deserved an audience. Surveillance beats sabotage when grandmas get tech savvy, And justice sometimes comes with chamomile and a USB port. Brenda's lies were about to hit the potluck, and someone brought a projector. And when the footage starts rolling, so do the confessions. Most folks bring potato salad to the HOA potluck. Me. I brought surveillance footage, a USB stick, and a strong desire to watch Brenda's ego trip on its own shoelaces. The evening kicked off with lemonade, folding chairs, and nervous gossip. Me. But the real entree was coming straight from the HDMI port. Brenda strutted in like a villain attending her own fan convention. Fresh sunglasses, dramatic sighs, and a white blouse that screamed, "Me. I'm the victim of an ungrateful village." She stood next to the dessert table like it was a press podium. "This is what happens when you allow disrespect to fester," she announced, me gesturing to my still red walkway like she hadn't marinated it in paint herself. People nodded politely, probably out of habit, or fear of another fine for unlicensed sympathy. Me. I waited until she hit her peak volume and then cleared my throat. "I'd like to share something too," I said, casually plugging in Gloria's projector like I was about to present a pie chart. Me. Not a neighborhood takedown. The footage began with Brenda dragging a paint bucket like a raccoon hauling contraband. The silence that fell over the picnic tables was so thick it could have been sliced and served with whipped cream. There she was on camera, sloshing paint, setting up a fake camera, and practicing a shocked face that looked like a soap opera audition. It played twice. The second time, someone slow clapped, then someone else booed, and just like that, the HOA potluck turned into courtroom reality TV. Mrs. Jefferson stood up, shaking her head. "That's the same camera she said was recording my dog walking too aggressively." Mr. Patel chimed in. She fined me for lawn gnomes last week and said it was community trauma prevention." One by one, neighbors started unloading their Brenda horror stories like it was group therapy with Pi, me, and the Pi CD RAW assistants. Leo had added subtitles to the footage. Vandalism level HOA Karen and shock face rehearsal take 3. Brenda stood frozen, blinking like her brain was buffering. "This footage is doctored," she snapped, pointing at the screen like her finger could delete evidence. But the crowd wasn't buying it anymore. They'd seen the raw footage, the hypocrisy, and the choreography of her madness. And when Rachel stood up, holding a printed spreadsheet of Brenda's fake citations, the last bit of neighborly tolerance left the building. Someone offered her a folding chair. She declined and instead reached for her purse, muttering something about legal recourse. Nothing brings a community together like mutual outrage, justice served cold. Me and 2 kinds of casserole. But Brenda wasn't done. She still had legal paper, forged headers, and a massage chair. And next time, she'd try to flip the script with a cease and desist letter that would have made Judge Judy cackle. Brenda attacked my security system like it owed her HOA dues and had been late 6 months. I woke up to a silent alert that said, "System offline," which is like your house whispering, "Peaced, something dumb just happened outside." At first, I thought it was a storm, but there was no wind, no rain, just the distinct scent of petty revenge and dollar store sabotage in the air. One glance at the cut cords by the porch confirmed it. Brenda had gone full ninja, minus the stealth grace or competence. I figured she'd smashed the cameras and left smug. What she didn't know, bless her technologically allergic soul, was that my garage had a backup cam tucked behind the mower. Recording in 4K like Spielberg's Side Hustle. The footage. Brenda creeping through the hedges with Rachel's borrowed ladder, a fanny pack of zip ties, and a look of unhinged purpose. She clipped wires like she was disarming a bomb, muttering, "He thinks he's so smart, well I'll show him." And then came the PICDR assistance, her 20-minute slap fight with the community bulletin board. It was glorious. She tried to rip the board off its post like she was Hulk in a pantsuit. But when it tipped and hit her shin, she shrieked and tackled it like it had called her a bad president. The final moment was art, her fake security camera swinging from its own cord while she limped off, defeated by wood and weatherproof screws. I edited the footage with dramatic music and text overlays like, "Sabotage Karen vs public infrastructure." Within hours, it had more shares than our OA newsletter got in 5 years. Naturally. Brenda panicked in the only way she knows how, by speed dialing 911 like it was her personal concierge. "There's been more vandalism," she declared as if she hadn't been the one providing all of it. "And wouldn't you know it?" Eli answered again. "The poor woman couldn't file a false report without hitting our family tree." She went on and on about harassment, community threats, and how she feared for her life because of coordinated gossip. Eli didn't say much. He just let her keep digging like she was looking for legal sanity 6 feet under. As she described the dangerous, manipulative man who films everything, Eli asked, "Mom, have you been involved in any property alterations this week?" Brenda paused, just long enough to realize she was on speakerphone again. I am the HOA president. I am allowed to perform emergency modifications. Translation: she just confessed to a midnight sabotage on a recorded line, for the second time in 2 weeks. If shame were an Olympic event, she just took gold and dropped the medal in a sewer grate. You can't cut cables fast enough to outrun a backup drive, and never vandalize where your neighbor has more storage than your excuses. Brenda just gave the HOA their first viral scandal, and the comment section's hungry. But she still has one move left: a fake lawsuit, a forged letterhead, and a chair more expensive than her integrity. If your HOA meeting ends with a standing ovation and felony charges, you might have taken the neighborhood power fantasy a little too far. Brenda marched in like she was opening night at Broadway's most delusional one-woman show. She brought charts, binders, and what looked suspiciously like clip art evidence of my crimes. The agenda: remove Carl Baker, destroy his credibility, and probably fine him for the emotional damage of having better Christmas lights. What she didn't know was that we'd already cued the projector and prepped the popcorn. Brenda opened her case with the grace of a soap opera villain. This resident has systematically undermined community peace, she bellowed, clicking to a slide labeled, Threat Assessment Carl. It had my face next to a photo of graffiti I hadn't even seen before. She accused me of sabotage, online harassment, and, my favorite, conspiracy to misuse gnome placement. Eli sat 3 rows back, casually tapping into the projector with a USB. Mind if we show the other side? He asked, smiling like a tech-savvy executioner. Brenda didn't answer, she just blinked. What followed was a neighborhood-wide mic drop, footage of Brenda pouring red paint, smashing cameras, installing fake surveillance, and auditioning for Most Paranoid HOA President Alive, played in glorious high definition. But we weren't done. Eli flipped to a new slide, labeled Budget Shenanigans, and walked the room through Brenda's 2000 Community Wellness Chair purchase. A photo of her backyard revealed the truth. A high-end leather massage throne hiding behind a 6-foot fence like it had joined witness protection. Community access, my foot, muttered Mrs. Patel as neighbors gasped, some recording, others just shaking their heads. Then came the Pi CD resistance, the cease and desist letter. Eli zoomed in on the fake law firm logo, which we traced to a mailbox rental store. We called the number. It goes to a disconnected voicemail. Brenda's eyes darted like someone who suddenly realized their pants were on fire and the whole town was watching. Officer Hopkins from local PD had been sitting quietly in the back, but at that moment, he stood up and opened a folder. Mom, you are currently under investigation for multiple offenses including fraud, vandalism, and filing false reports. Brenda froze. Then she did what all great villains do. She tried a dramatic exit. She spun, snarled something about injustice, and stormed toward the door. Only to trip over the projector cord and faceplant in front of 42 witnesses and 2,000 livestream viewers. Eli, never missing a beat, whispered, and scene. The applause that followed. Honest to God thunder. Brenda scrambled up, her blazer smeared with floor dust and whatever dignity hadn't abandoned her yet, and hissed, "This isn't over. You'll all regret this." But the HOA had already voted unanimous removal. Brenda was now just another angry neighbor with too many parking complaints and not enough allies. The louder the lie, the better it sounds on tape, and the harder it echoes when it hits the floor. But Brenda's downfall wasn't complete. Her last complaint to the city opened more than a can of worms. It exposed the graveyard she buried her secrets in. Brenda dreamed of HOA fame. She just didn't know it'd come with handcuffs, a mug shot, and a trending hashtag. The next morning, she got all 3. At exactly 6:47 a.m., police cars pulled up to Brenda's house like she'd just won the lottery of bad decisions. Officer James Rowland, the type of man who smiled like he'd already seen the ending to your movie, stepped out with a clipboard and a smirk. "Time to see what community improvement really paid for," he said. They found it all, like a suburban episode of Cribs Gone Criminal. There was the massage chair, 2,000 of stolen serenity, reclining in the sunroom like it had no idea it was evidence. Then came the file drawer labeled, Undesirable Residents, filled with Carl's name, Eli's name, and enough surveillance notes to qualify as a low-budget spy thriller. But the real kicker. A folder with the header, Legal Threats, stuffed with fake cease and desist letters, fake law firm letterhead, and one invoice for emotional distress ink cartridges. Brenda wasn't just lying, she was scrapbooking her lies. Meanwhile, Eli was already editing. The video opened with Brenda's greatest hits. Her faceplant into the trash, her screech about illegal fencing, the slow-motion footage of her tripping over the projector cord like gravity was personally offended by her presence. Eli dubbed it, Chair of Shame. Meet the HOA Chronicles, and by noon it had 10,000 live viewers and a comment section hotter than a Florida sidewalk. Viewers from 3 time zones were cheering, laughing, and dropping quotes like, "Mom, you can't arrest me. This is a gated community," and just when you thought it couldn't get better, Brenda got perp-walked, still in her silk robe, yelling about constitutional homeowner sovereignty. She was escorted to a cruiser with neighbors clapping like it was the 4th of July. Mrs. Perry tossed glitter in the air. Mr. Rodriguez brought lawn chairs. Carl stood with Ali, both sipping coffee like it was just another Tuesday. Officer Roland leaned in and said, "She's facing state and federal charges. I don't think she'll be bothering y'all anytime soon." Carl just nodded. "Tell her to leave the chair." By the end of the week, the massage chair was auctioned and the funds returned to the HOA. Brenda's house had a "for sale" sign staked like a tombstone, and her online infamy had reached meme status. Leo turned the story into a how-to guide on exposing abuse of power, and the neighborhood, peaceful, proud, and finally HOA Karen free. This wasn't just a fight against a nosy tyrant. It was a story about legacy. About how Carl didn't just protect his house. He protected the principle that no one gets to rule through fear, especially not someone holding a clipboard like it's the Constitution. And let's not forget Ali, who reminded us all that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's evidence in HD set to music. So what's the lesson here? Keep your receipts. Even if they're covered in banana peel. Never underestimate the power of a neighbor with a tech-savvy kid. And always remember, real authority doesn't shout. It shows up with proof. If this story made you laugh, think twice about your HOA, or gave you hope that justice can still be funny, go ahead and click like, drop a comment below about your wildest neighbor story, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a twist, a lesson, or a good old-fashioned downfall in the next episode of HOA Didn't Know. Stick around, because next time, the clipboard might come with backup, and we've got receipts.